Ash drifted over the caldera like gray snow, settling in soft drifts that glittered where the sun struck. 3 weeks after Mount Ora burned through its crown, the land's newest export began to appear. Knives of glass, fans of vitrified ash thin as dragonfly wings, sheets of smoky mirror half buried in pumice. People called it echoglass. Something in the pressure, the heat, and the minerals had frozen possibilities inside the lattice. Tilt a shard and you saw yourself but not yourself, hair cut differently, a stranger's ring on your hand, a child clinging to your trousers, a gun, a medal, a coffin. Soon, ragcloth treasure hunters, shard rats, the papers said, picked through the ruin. They wrapped fragments in oilcloth, carried them to the outskirts, and auctioned them like fortunes. For a coin you could buy a peek at a kinder timeline. For a year's wage you could rent a door-sized slab and step through, if you dared. The stories, that two versions of you could not occupy one world for long, that the glass kept a ledger in invisible fire. Mara Kestrel stood at the market's edge, her breath already shallow from the walk. 29 felt like 50 in her bones. The doctors named her illness in syllables that tasted metallic, systemic, degenerative, idiopathic. She translated, incurable. Some mornings she could not lift a teacup, yet every night pain still found ways to invent itself anew. At the stall, a boy not much older than 15 spun a platter of echo glass on leather gloves. The surface shimmered. Mara in a crisp nurse's uniform, laughing with colleagues. Mara running up courthouse steps. Mara lying in a hospital bed. Then the image rolled on. The boy caught the plate, light dancing in his pupils. "First look free," he said. She tried to hide her tremor by tucking her hands beneath her shawl. "I've looked. I want to buy. Full pane or postcard?" "Door." Her voice cracked on the word. The boy's eyebrows climbed. Most shoppers purchase slivers for hope, not passage. "You know the rule? Payment is half up front, half when you come back. If you come back." Mara slid a cloth purse across the table, money scraped inside like seeds in a gourd. It was everything. Inheritance from a mother already buried, savings from jobs abandoned when standing on brittle joints became torture. The boy poured the coins, counted quickly, produced a frame wrapped in burlap. "Don't unwrap till you're indoors," he said. "Sunlight scatters the resonance." Resonance? Think of it as memory. The glass is still chewing. Best step through when reflections line up right. Twilight's safest boundaries blur. A spasm gripped Mara's chest. She fought not to double over. Twilight would be soon. She lived 3 tram stops from the market, in a flat whose walls flake paint like dried petals. By the time she climbed the stairs, sweat iced her spine. She latched the door, dragged a chair, and only then loosened the burlap. A rectangle of storm-colored crystal emerged. Veins of gold darted beneath the surface, threads hammered by volcanic violence. At first, it showed only her room's dim geometry. Then shadows inside the pane rearranged, and Mara saw her apartment as it might have been. New plaster, windows open to clean air. In that version, she herself stood straight, free of the quiver that now worked her muscles. The healthier Mara pressed calloused fingers to a violin's neck, practicing scales. The sound impossibly seeped faintly into the room like scent through a doorway. Mara Kestrel had sold her violin years ago, angling for prescription money. She swallowed a mouthful of flame-tasting envy. "That's the one," she whispered, though no one asked. She waited until dusk bruised the sky. Then she did what the shard rats instructed, pricked her thumb, smeared a crescent of blood over the lower edge, and whispered her own name 3 times, binding the glass to a singular identity. Both Mara's the sick and the whole shuddered. The violinist looked up, bow frozen mid-air. Her brow furrowed as though she sensed an audience beyond the veil. "Sorry," Mara breathed, unsure why she apologized. She reached. The glass curved inward like a soap bubble, admitting her hand, her arm, the rest of her. Pain that had welded joints for years lifted, as if the membrane between worlds sponged it away. She pitched forward onto polished wood floors that smelled of lemon oil. The violin clattered from her double's grasp. Silence reigned, broken only by the alternate Mara's startled gasp. They faced each other, identical eyes, identical scar on the chin from a childhood fall, but one's cheeks flushed with oxygenated blood while the other's hollows told months of anemia. "What?" the healthy one began. Mara had rehearsed lies, a cousin, a hallucination. They dissolved. Instead, she spoke the rawest sentence she possessed. "I'm sick." Her counterpart's pupils widened. "And I'm a dream?" "Not exactly." With her next breath, Mara tasted strength. Oh God, even breathing was easy here, like walking out of water onto land. She straightened, luxuriating in the absent ache. "I came to trade places. You can't?" "Yeah, I already did." The healthy Mara recovered from shock faster than Mara expected. Perhaps vitality sharpened instincts. She snatched the fallen violin bow like a sword. "Get out." "No." Mara balanced on new yet familiar legs. She felt wolfish, a starving creature given the run of a butcher's shop. "You don't know what it's like on the other side. Everything hurts. Every plan becomes a calculation of distance and stairs and hours until the next dose. I fund clinics," her doubles said. "I treat chronic cases. You think I haven't seen pain?" "Seen, yes. Carried, not for a single second." The bow wavered. "Why me?" "Because you're me. The universe showed me all our forks, and this path is the one where we win." Her voice thickened. "I want to win." Something in those words softened the double's stance. Not forgiveness, maybe recognition. They were, after all, leaf and shadow of the same branch. "There must be rules," the healthier Mara murmured. "Physics, metaphysics, whatever, will correct this." "Maybe," Mara said, "but let it correct slowly." She needed an anchor, some proof against being flung back. Her gaze darted about the room until it landed on the glass frame she'd come through. On this side, its surface was dull, slate, and unreadable, but a faint seam haloed the perimeter where gold veins met wood. She understood the instinct suddenly. "Close the door." She lunged. The violinist was faster. The bow cracked across Mara's knuckles. Pain, astonishingly ordinary, bloomed. The edge of panic returned like an old friend. What if my symptoms flood back now? Here? Mara kicked, catching her twin's shin. Both women stumbled. The frame rattled. Footsteps thundered in the hallway. A man burst in, tall, freckled, sleeves rolled. The husband Mara had glimpsed in pricier shards but never met. "Lena?" he called. So in this world she used her middle name. He took in the tableau. Twin wives squared off. "Marcus, call security." Healthy Mara Lena ordered. Mara's calculation sharpened. 2 against 1 ended badly. She seized the frame, dragging it like a shield, and sprinted toward the balcony door she'd noticed earlier. Glass smashed as she rammed through onto the veranda overlooking an alley. Wind smelling of rain and jasmine slapped her face. 5 floors down, cobblestones pooled darkness. No way. Her gaze skittered back to the echo glass. If she could reopen it, a roar echoed behind. Marcus charged. Mara raised the shard. Light inside it sparked, sensing choice. She pictured her original apartment, empty, easier to trap one body than 2. The surface cleared. "Let me heal them," she pleaded, meaning her alternate self and her husband, meaning the whole broken cosmos. But the moment for pity fled as Marcus grabbed her arm. She twisted. Momentum pitched him against balcony rails. For a heartbeat, he teetered, then fell backward into the room, clutching ribs. Healthy Mara rushed forward, fury and terror twin torches in her eyes. "Stop!" Mara stepped into the mirror. She emerged in her old flat, moonlight slicing dust. Quickly she set the shard against the stucco, searching the frame's joinery. In the drawer lay carpenter's nails, scavenged during months of housebound boredom. One by one she hammered them around the wood, pinning the mirror to the wall. Each strike vibrated through her bones, still strong, not glassy as before. She tasted triumph. On the far side, Lena pounded the sealed surface. Her face blurred behind gray swirls. No sound crossed, but Mara read the shape of "no" on her lips. A small, frightened part of her wanted to undo it. Larger hunger shrugged. Exhaustion settled like aftershocks. She lay on the mattress, not caring that plaster dust mottled her borrowed skin. Muscles hummed with life. She closed her eyes and slept deeper than morphine ever allowed. Morning unfurled bright and ordinary. Sun warmed her lid, and for the first time in a decade she woke without pain as herald. She rolled over, testing joints, delighted by silence where ache would have crowed. Yet the room felt smaller, a dollhouse copy. The smell of mildew she'd grown nose-blind to stabbed her senses. She rose to wash, catching herself in the bathroom mirror. Same freckles, but the eyes held an alertness unearned by this setting. Clothes in her closet hung loose. Her counterpart had trained muscle where Mara had shed flesh. She found linen trousers, a blouse, shoes 2 sizes stronger. She laughed when they fit. Outside, the city trudged on. Ash wagons rattled, but officials now sprayed streets to keep dust from lungs. She bought coffee back, no sugar, and tasted it fully, each bitterness a gift. At a kiosk, she scanned headlines. Rifts, they called them, portals stitched by echo glass. Governments debated whether to regulate commerce of selves. Mara's fingers tightened on the paper. Her name might already be on lists. Lena Kestrel, violinist, missing. Better carve a new identity while the bureaucracy slept. She could leave tonight, vanish inland, build the life she had glimpsed shard by shard. Medical school? Too slow. Adventure. Perhaps music again, or writing, or simply walking without counting steps. Back at the flat she packed. A photograph of her mother. Some clothes. The purse now nearly empty. She tried not to look at the nailed mirror. Still, she felt its gravity, a moon-tugging tide. She glanced. Lena stood visible through the murk, cheeks tear-shined. Marcus hovered behind, holding an ice pack to his ribs. They had found a hammer of their own. Metal dented the inner surface of the glass, yet it did not crack. Mara lifted the sheet she'd planned to throw over the frame, but paused. Wasn't part of victory watching others fail? The thought tasted sour even while she savored it. She draped the cloth, hiding them and her discomfort alike. That night she boarded a northbound train. Countryside slid past, green scrub slowly reclaiming volcanic gray. She wrote plans in a notebook. First a small town where no one recognized either variant of her face. From there, build, bloom. She drifted to sleep to the rhythm of rails and dreamed. She was on the balcony again. Marcus's fall replayed, but in the dream, he went over the rail entirely, swallowed by 5 stories of air. Lena howled. Echoglass buckled, shimmering stitches unraveling, and Mara felt a hook yank her spine toward oblivion. She woke clammy, heartbeat clubbing grips, no injury now protected. 2 nights later, in a hostile bunk, the dream returned. This time the railing broke, tumbling him to the alley. Blood pooled in spirals shaped like volcanic vents. Every rewatch made the red darker, thicker, as though the dream refused revisions. She began to cough. Just dust, perhaps, or maybe her original sickness finding her address. Panic tempted her to seek a clinic, but fear of discovery pinned her. So she bought medicine over the counter, copied exercises from magazines. The dreams worsened. On the 7th night she recognized more than guilt. The dreams were messages, echoes through echo glass, evidence that boundaries frayed. 2 versions of her still coexisted. One stomping across borrowed earth, one clawing a cloth-draped prison. The universe's ledger tallied in balance. She could keep running, hoped the account never came due. She could search for another shard to flee further, or to confront Lena and bargain terms. Or she could march back and face the question she had sidestepped. What is a life worth, and which Mara deserved continuation? She bought a return ticket. At dawn, the city greeted her with cinder-tinged wind. She climbed her old stairwell and found the cloth fallen, the mirror bare, cracks spidered where hammer blows had finally breached. From each fissure leaked threads of gold light that pooled on the floor like spilled mercury. It smelled of ozone and violets. Through the gaps she saw a hospital ward. Lena, gaunt now, strapped to monitors. Transfer of suffering, Mara realized. Pain traveled paths cut by souls, and hers had changed addresses. Marcus sat beside the bed, holding Lena's hand, reading aloud from a violin concerto program. He looked older, or maybe just night-shattered. Mara pressed her palm to the glass, first from habit, then in apology, and the light flared so bright she flinched. The mirror mouth opened, choice hammered at her ribs harder than any illness had. Go through, return what she'd taken, reclaim the hurt that was hers by chronology? Or smash the pain, end both torments now, live whatever stolen years remained, and damn the Towley. She thought of her mother humming lullabies on days when pain kept child Mara curled on the floor. Some debts, her mother once said of life's hardships, aren't debts at all, but gifts you hold until you learn why they were entrusted. Mara had envied the phrase's optimism. Tonight it came back like a map. She inhaled, exhaled, stepped. Alarm shrieked as the intruder manifested beside the bed. Nurses shouted, but Marcus stared, transfixed by the twinned Maras. Mara stared at him. She stared at the fact. Nurses shouted, but Marcus stared, transfixed by the twinned Maras. Nurses shouted, but Marcus stared, transfixed by the twinned Maras. Mara felt the illness coil, familiar and inevitable, around her lungs, threading joints with fire. Yet something else arrived, too, a gentling, like fingers against lips saying, "Hush." She climbed onto the mattress beside her counterpart, curling into a human circle, the way you cradle your own knees against winter. Lena blinked awake, and in her eyes Mara read astonishment, question, a trace of forgiveness maybe. "I'm sorry," Mara whispered. Lena's lips shaped the same words. Across the ward the echo glass continued to hum, but its veins no longer glowed. The two timelines had collapsed inward, not into violence, but accord. There would be administrative chaos, explanations to craft, but that belonged to daylight. For now there was only breath, thin, rattling, shared. Mara closed her eyes. The pain remained hers again, but it felt different, threaded with purpose. She had stepped through lava-born mirrors, stolen possibility, and returned carrying understanding heavier than bone. Scavengers outside would keep selling futures, for hunger drives commerce as much as hope. But rumor would grow of a woman who walked both directions through a shard and chose to stay where living hurt, yet meant something. Maybe that story would warn or inspire or simply survive like ash on wind, settling into crevices until someday pressure, heat, and longing fused it into mirrors for others to test. And in the quiet between alarms, Mara heard or imagined violin strings tuning somewhere beyond the ward, two bows drawing across two sets of strings, aligning pitch, learning slowly how to play in harmony rather than competition.